Perfect. All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Hani. I am a student advisor at EducationUSA Advising Center in Prague. And today I have a special guest, Katherine, who is a PhD student here in Prague with the Fulbright Commission Scholarship. And she's going to talk about graduate studies in the United States. So thank you so much for joining us, Katherine. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start with the introduction of EducationUSA, and then I'm going to pass it over to you. So the EducationUSA is basically a network that helps students if they want to apply to any American university or college in the United States. And we provide free, accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information. So guys, if you are interested in studying in the United States, feel free to send us an email or schedule a consultation. And I'll be very happy to help you on this journey, on this educational journey to the United States. Mostly I work with high school students who would like to apply for their bachelor's degree. But if you are studying a bachelor's degree in the Czech Republic and you would like to apply to your master's degree, this is actually a webinar for you. So Katherine will walk you through all the steps. I work in an advising center in Prague. And as you can see, there are other advising centers all around the Czech Republic. So if you live closer to Ostrava, Brno, Ústí, or Plzeň, you can definitely visit advising centers there. We are actually opening one in Olomouc right now. So that's the big news. And there's going to be one in Olomouc, which is a beautiful city. And if you don't live close to those cities, don't worry, I will always be happy to schedule an online consultation, and I'll be very happy to help you via Google Meet or some other
way.
Yeah, great. And what do we offer? Those are seminars and webinars like this one. So I suggest that you follow us on social media under the handle EducationUSA Czech, or you can also register or subscribe to our monthly newsletter so that you are informed on which webinars we are having that month. You can also visit our library that is, again, here for you. We are open on Tuesdays, and you can borrow books for SATs, ACTs, for GRE exams, and that's for free. Or I definitely offer consultation in person, online. It's just right now there is this vacation time coming up, so I'll be happy to email with some dates with you, and it's better to do it online right now. So perfect. And why study in the USA? So we are going into the topic that we have today, which is graduate studies. And I'm sure that everyone has different reasons. So I just listed a few of them, which can be opportunity and quality of studying. Me personally, I studied in Pennsylvania for my master's degree. I studied there for a year, and it was amazing. I really enjoyed the community, the campus life. And it's true that I met new people. The networking was amazing. And the connections, the extracurricular activities that I was able to do on campus. So you don't have to have the same ones as I did, but definitely if you have a great motivation, that is something that will help you move forward. But I also wanted to share with you that it is a little bit different, the US higher education system. So the difference is that to study a bachelor's degree in the United States, it usually takes you 4 years. And you can either apply to any American college or university and spend 4 years, get the degree. Another way for the bachelor degree education is to apply to a community college, which takes you 2 years, and then you can either finish with an associate degree, or you can transfer to the 4-year college, but you will just spend 2 more years and you will get the degree from the college or university. And then you continue to your master's degree studies. So the master's degree usually takes 2 years. That's the same as in the Czech Republic. But Katherine, she has an experience with studying in the STEM field. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math, correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And that can take you even up to 3 years. So just keep that in mind, that it can be a little bit longer, but that's the same case in the Czech Republic. Sometimes you go abroad for some time, so you can make your studies 1 year longer, and then you can definitely continue to your doctoral studies. Perfect. So I think I covered the basics, and then I'm going to pass it over to you, Katherine, and please share with us your experience.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Hanny, for having me, inviting me to be here with you. Yeah, so I am a PhD student. I did a master's in the United States. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I did my undergraduate there. And I really try to just summarize the most important things that you should know about what's the route to get to graduate school. And the first thing is, like, you need to make the decision that you want to go to grad school. And after that, you should start looking for the programs that you're interested in. And this is where a lot of things will be like, it depends on the type of degree you want to pursue, the field you want to be in. But within your search, once you have highlighted or identified the different programs that, you know, draw your attention, I think that's the most important time to start reaching out to people that are working in that field or in those programs that you want to apply to. And it's important to reach out to people first, because then you can inquire about whether they're looking to hire a student, whether they are willing to have a meeting with you, whether online or in person, depending where you are. Just have that first potential interview when you get to know a little bit more about the person, because in graduate school, usually you have a mentor or an advisor that you work directly with. Especially if you're in the sciences, you'll have somebody that it will be your go-to person when you're designing your project and research and like everything that you want to do within your program. And that first initial reach out or contact is very important. I'll dive into the details about some advice of what the things you can do when you are first inquiring about a position or simply just getting to know more about the program. It's also good to reach out to the faculty in the program, but also admissions. They will give you a lot of advice, especially with international students. There might be a bit of more paperwork that you'll have to do in terms of once you get into the process. So let's say you reach out to the person, you get to know them a little bit, they're interested in hiring you. Now you have to work on your application and what are the program degree requirements. So you're gonna put this application together that usually consists of your transcripts, your curriculum vitae or your resume, a personal statement of who you are, what you want to do, and why you're the best candidate to be hired for this position. And depending on the field, you might need like a portfolio or a research proposal. And none of this is definitive for research. Like, you can propose some ideas of the things that you're interested in looking at. And you put all of that together. You have, in many cases, you have to take some admission exams, which I'll talk about those in a bit. And once you have your whole package, you submit it. And you wait sometimes a shorter time, sometimes a bit more longer. And there's the selection process. In STEM fields, there are many cases where the person that you have contacted that you want to work with, they have a lot of, their opinion about your application has a lot of weight in the selection process, because if they want to work with you, they need to write a letter to the department and let them know, like, I want this person, like this person should get hired. I want to work with them. And then you wait for an offer from the department. And we're gonna break this down a little bit more in the next couple of slides.
It almost looks like an applying for a job, especially when you say, you know, a position and so forth, even though it's just studying. So
it's studying, but you have certain responsibilities that come, and this is mainly because of the way you're funded through your degree.
Okay.
So that first inquiry, I think first email, keep it short and simple. Many of the people that you're reaching out to have a lot of emails every day. You want them to know who you are, what are your interests, why you think you're a good fit to work with them. Always attach your CV, whether it's asked or not. And I think a good rule of thumb is that if there are no responses after 2 weeks, you should feel free to follow up, you know, because sometimes it can take them like some time to get back to you, because I mean, you're not the only person that is emailing them. So I think after 2 weeks, like follow up, and then it gets a bit tricky, because if you never hear back, then I think you should move on to other options. So have a good list of options of people that you want to contact.
I actually have a question. Like if I go one step back, how do you research the schools? Where do you find the schools that you would like to apply to?
So I did mine through like the topics that I was interested in. So for example, I study water chemistry and I study rivers and streams, and I wanted to work somewhere that I could do that type of work. So I looked for those keywords within my research and my area, my field area, and that's how I ended up into like different universities. Also, for graduate school, social media, it's a big thing, especially Twitter. We call it academic Twitter. And often you'll see a lot of professors looking out for having posts and ads for students. Like, we are hiring in our lab, and they have like this advertisement, and I found my PhD position through Twitter.
Whoa,
like I saw an advertisement for it, and I then went into the website of the lab and saw everything that I needed to send to the PI. I did, and then I got my first email and set up my interview and everything. And then after a long process of discussions and visiting the school and all of that, I got the position. So yeah, Twitter is a good way to find a lot of scientists if you're into STEM. It's kind of like the go-to now, but also they will post it on the professional affiliations or organizations that we're affiliated to, where we have conferences and stuff. They have like job postings, and you can find it there. Also, if they have a website about their lab or their institution, usually they have an ad on their university website, so you can also find it there. But yeah, start with keywords of the things that you're interested in, and a lot of things will pop up.
I usually advise to use like the Big Future website on College Board, or the Peterson's, where you can also search by some keywords such as location or a major, and that will help you narrow down your options. And then definitely the Twitter is actually such a great advice. I never thought about that. So amazing. And then you reach out to people directly, or you reach out to admission officers, or, you know, like what is that email?
I usually do to the person directly that I'm interested in working with. And yeah, that has worked. Same thing happened for my master's. So yeah, I am about to graduate. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm interested in. Are there any openings in your group? I would like to discuss this further. Also, even if they're not, sometimes even if they don't have any openings, they can direct you to some other people or colleagues that they know looking for students. So it's a great way to get like connected with other people as well.
Perfect.
Because with admissions, the process can be, it depends on the field. I think for science, it's usually you go directly to the person you want to work with, because that's the person you need to get to know before you commit to work with them. So yeah. Okay, that interview process. Once, like, let's say you found the thing that you wanted, and I wanted to add to this prior, that another way is depending what your priorities are. If you're interested in a location more than like you don't really care about all the extensive offer, you're more like, I want to live in this place, then you look for the options within that place. So it depends like what's your top priority, whether like the field, the area you want to live this in. So yeah, think about those things and like just rank them into what is most important to you. Okay, let's say you reach out to the person, you have that first initial interview, and I just have 3 main things. I think being honest about what you do, what you know and don't know is very important, but you also need to show that if you don't know something, like most of us don't know everything, nobody knows everything, you should be honest about that, but you also should show willingness to learn. Like, oh, I don't know about this yet, but I'm open to learning about it and like see what I can get out of, you know. That willingness goes a long way. It's good for you to show your interest in what you're looking for, the kind of things you want and you expect. And one thing that often happens, I know we can be very shy in terms of asking questions, and it can be a very intimidating process, but you should have questions for them. Having questions really like makes a difference in terms of like, oh, you're showing them that you care, and therefore they're more receptive of the things you have to say as well, because you just don't want to sit there and have them break down the program to you and what everything is about, and then you don't have questions for them. Like, come ready with some questions, and there are some things that you can ask them, like how they work with their students, like their mentoring style, what kind of support they provide to the students, because you want to make sure that you can be successful working with them. You want to know that you'll get support, that you won't feel like you're on your own. And that also depends a lot on how they're usually mentor their students. There are some people that are very focused and they're very hands-on with you, but there are some people that are also very hands-off. So you need to know also what works best for you. Are you good working on your own independently? Is that your style? Then maybe you want a more hands-off person to work with. But if you feel like you need more guidance and direction and just assurance throughout the process, then maybe you want somebody that is more involved. So those are the kind of things that you need to ask yourself. Ask them about general expectations. What do they expect from you if they were to hire you? What kind of like will be your work commitments? And how students can succeed working with them. How do they make sure that their students are not only going to grad school and doing a good job, but how they're thriving in grad school, like what makes them stand out, what's good, and how they help you get to where you want to be, you know, because this is getting a graduate degree is a step towards the professional life that you want to build. And you should be able to fulfill all the requirements of everything that you need for that professional life that you aspire to have. So, and they should support you in that. So yeah, just a lot of things to keep in mind. It's not like I want to go to grad school and that's it. It's, you have to give it a lot of thought in terms of what you want, how do you work better, and what kind of things you need throughout that process.
Cool.
Okay, so the application process, this will vary per institution. It depends the field you're going into, what you want to do, the kind of degree. I will say like for each individual program that you're applying to, review the requirements for their specific program. And usually a big component is this admission exams, which are the GRE, the graduate record examination, and the TOEFL, which the TOEFL is basically to measure your level of English, and every non-native English speaker has to take it. I am a no-native English speaker. My first language is Spanish, and I had to take the TOEFL when I applied for my master's. And these are the main admissions exams required, but it depends per institution. And right now, the GRE in many, many universities in the United States is not longer being required as an entry exam. You might not be required the general GRE, but some departments, depending where you're applying to, might require you to get a subject one, like a biology GRE or something like that, depending on the field that you're trying to go into. I did not have to take the GRE for my PhD application, although I already had it. But I did have to take it for my master's. And the TOEFL, once you have a degree in the United States in English, so I had a master's, you don't have to take TOEFL anymore, because like you've proven like you got a degree in English. So like you're proficient enough in the language that you don't have to show them again.
And do you remember what does TOEFL consist of?
Yeah, so the TOEFL, it's writing, reading, and listening mostly, and you need to get a specific score, which will depend on what your specific department is looking for. I think mine, the minimum was like, they wanted a 90 score, but I think from what I looked up a few days ago, I think the average minimum requirement around the US it's 76, but it depends per state, depends per institution. And the GRE, it's this standardized exam that evaluates how you analyze, solve problems, and think critically. It's like if you were to study in the US for undergrad, you'll have to take the SAT or College Board, and it will evaluate all of these things for the college level. So it does the same thing, but for a graduate level.
Do you take it online? Do you like, or
it's usually, yeah, I took it online. I think now it's mostly online. You just go to a testing center. But maybe there are some arrangements where, depending where you are, if you can take it abroad, where do they do that exam? But yeah, it's like you go to a testing center, you do it on a computer. I'm not sure if you can do it from home yet. Okay. But maybe with COVID things have changed. Yeah. No, wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly. With SATs and ACTs, it's coming in 2024. So I'm sure that, they'll keep up.
Yeah. Maybe we're not too far from it. Yeah. So it's analytical writing, both verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning.
Do you remember if there are any trial tests online available?
From their website, from the ETS website, you can do tests, practice tests, and you can do, if you buy their books, you can also have a lot of practice tests there. They often have webinars and different quizzes that you can take. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to practice for these exams. But it's an standardized exam. A lot of things come into account, and I feel like one thing you should know is like this is it's a requirement for many institutions, and that is changing. But regardless of the outcome of how you do in this exam, your graduate application package, there are other things that will also have a lot of weight. Some people don't even look at the GRE, but if it's a requirement, well, you have to take it, and you should try to do your best. But just know that what you do in your undergraduate, like if you're, sorry, I keep saying science, but that's my background. If you do a lot of research during undergrad, which was my case, that has a lot of weight into the experiences you have, the skills you have developed, and that matters. And in my case, I think that had a lot more weight than how I did in the GRE.
Okay,
same with grades.
I actually have one question here. And where is the question? Here. So it says, can TOEFL be waived if you are from English-speaking country and all your previous studies degree were in English?
I think so. It should be. Like if English is the native language of the country you're from, it should be okay.
Perfect. All right.
Well, always like double check with they will have like a description. If TOEFL is a requirement for international students, like you can reach out to them and explain, and then they will tell you whether it can be waived or not. But it should be if that's the native language of the country. Yeah.
Perfect. I also wanted to add that we do have a GRE test books in our advising center, EducationUSA in Prague. We are located at the Fulbright Commission. So feel free to stop by and borrow them, because there are some tests that you can try out. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. The other side of grad school is money. And the first thing I have here is a piece of advice I got when I was in an undergrad. It's like, you should not have to pay for your graduate studies. And I agree with that 100%. And there are many ways to go around financing graduate school. I'll talk to you from the perspective of my experience. You can get teaching assistantships through the graduate school and the department that you're in. You can also get a research assistantship. The difference between these two: teaching assistantship, you are teaching, you have assigned some groups. In my case, I was teaching labs. So I had general biology labs that I was teaching. I had 2 sessions. In each session, I had about 25 students. And I was in charge of teaching that lab, of grading their lab reports and presentations and everything. The other way that teaching assistantship can look like is that you're assisting the professor that is teaching a lecture or a lab, and you will be in charge of maybe leading review sessions for exams, but also doing the grading and stuff like that. So your responsibilities will depend on the kind of like agreement or what is expected for you to do, depending on the person you're working with for this teaching assistantship. When you have research assistantship, usually there's a project that is financing you for that semester or for that year. And you could it could be your same project that is funding your degree, but it also could be a different project. So you won't be teaching, but you will be doing some other work for that. And usually both teaching and research assistantship should be that you work 20 hours for each then. Like if you're teaching, teaching responsibilities are for 20 hours. If research assistantship, then it should be 20 hours as well, at least in my experience, what I've seen. There are many cases that if you're successful with other applications, you can also bring your own funding. There are different fellowships and awards. And these fellowships can come from the university directly, like a specific for science, history majors. You put an application together, and if you're successful, you get the funding, then that finances your studies, depending on how the funding is distributed within your department. There are also graduate fellowships, and then if you're an international student coming to the United States, then you should look for what kind of international funding opportunities there are for you in the place that you want to work with. So that's something that you can also ask the school directly. So all of this is depending where you want to go. But usually all of these things are very common in STEM fields, and this is how I get funded. I did not pay for my master's. I'm not paying for my PhD. The only thing I pay are fees for the university, which everybody has to pay for. But yeah.
Here, I would probably like to add that there is the Fulbright scholarships that you can definitely look at, because in the Czech Republic, we have plenty of opportunities with the Fulbright Commission. So feel free to check the website and apply for a Fulbright scholarship if that applies to you. And also, we are super lucky to have foundations. So if you guys are thinking about studying graduate school in the United States, and for some reason there are some money coming your way that you have to pay, or expenses, we do have foundations that you can reach out to. And again, on our website, fulbright.cz, there is a section called Advising Center. And under useful resources, we have got the whole list of foundations that will help you financially. So if you are unsure how to reach out to them, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help or navigate you. And Katherine, I've got one more question here from Clara. And she says, hi, Katherine, could you tell that it is possible to get your study and life in the US completely funded by getting a scholarship and assisting in research? Or is it impossible and you still need to have your own resources?
I think it's possible, but again, it will depend on the area. For example, I've gotten research assistantships and teaching assistantships. The teaching assistantship, basically you get like a tuition, these assistantships, you get a tuition waiver, so you don't have to pay for your coursework. And then you get a stipend. Basically you get like a salary every month, depending how your pay. Like I get 2 checks a month. I have a monthly salary, and that's split into checks, and that's how I pay for my housing and for my expenses. But it will depend on how much you're getting paid. But usually when you have an assistantship from the graduate school, it should cover the basics, you know, your tuition. It should give you some money to afford living near campus or on campus, however you want to do that. And basically your day-to-day cost. But it depends where you are. Some places are more expensive than others, whether you want to have roommates or not. Yeah, but you could.
Do you think that it was an advantage to study a STEM field in regards of the financing?
Yeah, certainly. Like yes.
Well, because
I remember things are covered. Yeah.
I remember that Clarka, who actually asked you this question, she is into biology and so forth. So I think it will resonate a lot.
Certainly. And the more experience you have in their field, the more competitive and you're a stronger candidate in the things that you're doing. You have great researchers in the Czech Republic. So if I don't know what career stage you are right now, but if you're interested in continuing in science, I will really encourage you to keep working with the people in the Czech Republic if you haven't, and build all of your experiences, because that will matter a lot.
Clarka also added, could you please share, where did you live during your graduate studies? Did you live in a dormitory, or did you share an apartment with friends or roommates? And she studies marine biology, so she was like,
great. That was my first love in science, marine biology. I wanted to study oceanography, but I study freshwater now. So I never lived in a dorm, so I don't have that dorm experience. I always lived in an apartment with roommates, and that has worked out pretty great. I think its advantages. It's good to have some people that you can talk to throughout the day. It depends if you like to live alone or if you like to have a little more of people around. And so always lived in an apartment where I have my own room. Sometimes bathrooms you have to share depending on how many are in the apartment. And basically you split the rent divided by the amount of people out there, which usually is cheaper. Dorm can be expensive sometimes compared to having an apartment outside of campus with roommates. So it depends like how much money you have to spend, so what's your budget and what do you want out of your experience, because I think living in an apartment with roommates can be a good way to nourish your cultural experience. I think also like going abroad. So I'll talk to you the opposite way. So I moved to the Czech Republic for my Fulbright. I've never been to Europe before, and I lived in an apartment with people from China, Ethiopia, and South Africa. And this is quite the cultural exchange. And I think it brings a lot of good things to the table and to your experiences and your perspectives. So I would highly recommend living with people from different parts of the world. And when you go to the US, like you're bringing your experiences as a Czech person and everything. So yes, I will vote for live outside of campus and get to know people. And there are many ways that you can get connected with people that are looking for roommates. Often university has websites for finding roommates. Virginia Tech has that for us, and that's how we found our third roommate this past year when we were moving to a new place. Yeah, so there are different ways. Facebook has a lot of, usually students have pages on Facebook looking for roommates. So yeah, there are many ways to go about it.
Perfect.
Sorry, I went on a tangent.
No worries, no worries. No, those are the questions. So thank you for answering all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Duration of the graduate programs. This, as Hani was mentioning, this might be like one of the biggest differences. You could depending on the field that you're going into. For my experience, a master's can be 2 to 3 years. Also, all of this, the duration of the programs is very dependent on funding availability. As long as there's money, there are no issues with the time, although there are some restrictions and timelines for the department itself. And you'll have to talk about with your department, like what's the longest time you can be there without affecting getting your degree. But I did my master's in 2 years. It's feasible. But it doesn't, a lot of things can happen throughout that period of time. So there's flexibility. There's like, in some cases, some people have like a 10-year window to finish their degree. It's not that you're going to be a master's student for 10 years, but like things happen and you have to deal with stuff. And the PhD is usually 4 to 5 years, but also this is like the typical, but there's this window where, if there has to be some sort of flexibility, then you have that for that. And sometimes, maybe these are the years that you're fully funded, but if you're not continuing, you're like still enrolled, but you're not continuing like taking coursework or teaching, you're pretty much just writing your dissertation, then it might change. How does that look like? Also, some people get jobs during the middle of their degree, so they become, instead of full-time student, they become a part-time student. It depends. I know one of the questions Hani had was like whether it's possible to work while you're doing a graduate degree. It is, but if you're a full-time student and you're teaching or doing research, in my case, it might be a bit complicated to juggle all of those things at once. So yeah, if you have funding and you don't need to work outside of what you're doing already for your degree, because teaching or doing research, that is a job. Your graduate studies are a job on its own. So if you don't really have the needs to do it, then don't beat yourself up, because it can be quite a lot. And grad school, it's not a straight line. It's full of bumpy roads, and it gets challenging at times. And it's not. It can become a lot. So you have to really wait out. Do you really have to do that, or can you finance yourself and do all the things you want and be at a good state? So yeah, it depends. It depends on the needs you have and what are you looking for. Yeah. Okay, I'll end this with the grad schools I've attended. So I did my master's in natural resources and the environment at the University of New Hampshire. This was from 2018 to 2020. I defended my thesis in the summer of 2020 online on Zoom. So I have my thesis defense online. And then right after that, I started my PhD in biological sciences at Virginia Tech. So I moved from North New England, US to the South. And yeah, general things that I was required to do to obtain my degree and stuff that I'm still doing for my PhD. I had to write a thesis and a dissertation, and I had to defend that. I did teaching, I did my coursework, and I did field work because I study water and I'm in the field a lot, and I had to defend. So there are some degrees that do not require a thesis, depending on the field they're going into. But if you're in science, choose a degree, choose a place that you will have to write a thesis, that you have to design your own project and collect all your data and analyze all of that, because that will help you a lot in your professional life. I think it's a process that you get to know a lot about yourself and about your field. And it's great when you get to learn so much about a topic that you're very passionate about. Mm-hmm. Teaching, it was the one thing why I decided to do a PhD. So when I started my master's, I was just like, I'm moving from Puerto Rico to go to New Hampshire to do a master's, 2 years, and then I'll be back. And my plan is to still be back in Puerto Rico as soon as possible. But when I started teaching in introductory biology during my master's, I really enjoyed it. And that was like kind of like inspiration, or like some sort of validation that I was on the right track and that I would like to continue this work. And if I want to teach at the college level or the university level, I think one of the most logical steps would be to get a PhD, because I also enjoyed doing research and I would like to have my lab one day and teach and mentor students. So it was just like the next step for me. It doesn't have to be for you. In many cases in the United States, you can teach a community college, I think, with a master's. So depending if you go to an university, like an undergraduate focused school, it depends what you want. But yeah, I think that's it.
I wanted to ask you time-wise, when you're studying bachelor's, when is that time when you should decide that, I have to start working because I know I want to apply for my master's? And then the same thing with the master's. How long does it take, like the process, and what are usually the deadlines?
Okay, usually deadlines are in December. For most cases in grad schools, it depends, but it can go to January, February. February, I think, is the latest. Some schools, departments have open application process, so it's like on a rolling basis. But I decided...
Can you explain the rolling base to our students?
Well, because there's some departments or schools have like an open, there's not like a specific deadline, but you're encouraged to submit your application sooner rather than later, so they can look at your application. So typically they would say like recommended deadline to submit everything, but some don't have like a specific deadline. So you should always check on that and reach out if there's not a specific date. On their website, reached out and asked them what it is, because you want to make sure that your application gets considered and submitted on time. So yeah, but usually when you're already a student in, let's say, I was doing my master's in New Hampshire, and one of the places I was applying for my PhD was to stay at the University of New Hampshire, and I did not have like a specific date that I had to submit my application for my PhD in New Hampshire. So it depends. There's a recommended time to do it, but I was already in the system, so it was more like, oh, okay, this person also would like to be considered for this position after they're done with their master's. So it depends. I say stick to the deadlines that are suggested. You don't want to miss them. And a big important part of this application process is letter of recommendations, which I didn't mention much, but usually you're requested 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, which will come from people that you have worked with in the past, either like professors if you had in college, if you're in science, mentors from internships you've done, or labs that you've worked in. And they should highlight you and how you, who you are, what you do, and why you're so good at what you do, and why they're really recommending you, and why that person that is reading that letter should hire you. But yeah, So that's another big part of your graduate application package. And usually there are, for the deadline, sometimes there are a specific deadline for letters and a specific deadline for you submitting your application materials. So you reach out to the people that you want them to write you a letter. And also it's important to ask them whether they will write you a good letter, because you want to submit an application package that speaks good of you. You know, if you don't think that person can write a good letter of recommendation about you, then you maybe should consider other people, because you want to have the best application there as possible. Yeah.
And so do you submit everything like this package through their website? Because I know that for the undergraduate, they usually use Common App or Coalition App, but this is different, right?
Yeah, this is usually they'll have everything online, and you either it's a box type where you fill in everything. So I would recommend just writing all your essays and everything on a separate document and then copying it into the box style. Or if it's like upload your file, then make sure you have all your documents and you upload them. But yeah, usually all the ones I've done have been online.
Perfect. Yeah. Great. Yeah, so if that's everything, I would love to invite you to ask questions. You can type them underneath the live stream as Klarka and some other person did. That's fine. We will go back to them and answer later. You can also reach out to us or to me directly under EducationUSA Czech, or my email address is advisor@fulbright.cz. So feel free to reach out with any questions you might have. And then we have a last slide where we would like to thank you for your attention. And there is also an email address to Katherine directly. So she said that she'll be very happy to help you out with your questions, with some proofreading, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want someone to look over your application, that's something that I enjoy as part of what I do, to give feedback to students and make you have the best application possible. And I know the writing process and coming together, talking about yourself in an essay it's challenging, because we don't like to talk about ourselves. But we have to do it, and we have to do it in a way that we are showing how good we are in everything that we do. So you really have to sell yourself, but also don't make it sound like pretentious or anything. It's just like be real.
It's a very, very thin line, right? Like between bragging and yeah. No, but thank you. Klarka already typed that she will definitely reach out to you directly. So yeah, Katherine, thank you so much for this generous offer, for doing this webinar with me. And enjoy the rest of your stay with the Fulbright Scholarship here in the Czech Republic. And I hope that we will do another webinar together soon about maybe STEM fields, which you are an expert in.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. And feel free to reach out anytime.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for watching.